Right. So, hi everybody. Today we're going to do our very best to share with you some very actionable things that you can take as founders going into this program, and it's focused on, your mental health and well-being. It's a very big topic. We're not going to say we're solving everything with just a session, but uh, as Oko and I have been working together for the last few years, we have gone through many a founder cycle together, separately, and supported a lot of people. Oko, say hi.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Aim's spouse.
Work spouse.
Works. um, my name is Oko. I am, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves, right? So I am originally from Mongolia. I'm connecting today from Singapore. I've lived here for about 4 years. I've lived in 5 different countries. My daytime job is Techstars. I work as a senior director of the ecosystem development under Techstars, and under different circumstances, I have worked both with Songbi and AIM and the rest of the folks in the Impact Collective project. I'm a founder. I've founded a few companies. I've helped several companies, so that gave me a little bit of insight into what it's like to work as a founder, as well as coaching founders and helping other people. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. And my introduction is slightly similar. So my name is Lalitha. I'm the regional director of community at Techstars. That's where Oko and I met. That's where we've been working together for the last 5-6 years. Similar to Oko, I've had the wonderful opportunity to work very closely with the folks at Impact Collective, and I'm very excited to be a part of this awesome program that they're doing. I am Malaysian, calling in from Malaysia, not the self-proclaimed queen of Mongolia, but accepted as one of their people. There are 2 Mongolians on this call that will vouch for that. Myself, I've been a founder myself. Oko and I started a podcast a couple of months ago that's very focused on mental health and well-being of founders. And that is really because over the last 5 odd years, we've gone through our own cycles of, being founders, working with founders, building ecosystems that are focused on, the right kind of environment that you grow founders in. And mental health and well-being has always come back to us as the most important thing that lacks spotlight, lacks highlight, especially in this region. So we're very fortunate to have been given this platform right now to talk to you about it. And through our own experiences and learnings that we've done, we hope that whatever we're sharing with you today helps make you a better founder moving forward. So that's really where we're at and the capacity that we're talking to you today from. Yeah. I'm going to move this to this side. Yeah. So there are a lot of things that can and have been said about mental health. I think over the last 5 years, there has definitely been a blow up in terms of how people are focusing on it, the kind of practices people are saying. There's lots of things on meditation. There's lots of things on taking time off. There's lots of insight now into burnout and anxiety, and it's wonderful that companies, startups, founders are getting the help, resources, and research that they need to make the right decisions about what they should be doing moving forward on these kinds of things. And but what we wanted to focus on today are 3 very tangible things. A lot of what is talked about in terms of mental health, well-being is very big picture. It's very fluffy, and we only have 50 minutes of your time today. So Oko and I wanted to really focus on the importance of mental health in terms of your performance and your productivity as a founder. So leaving this talk today, we want you to be able to take the 3 things that we focus on and actually utilize it in an actionable and tactile manner. And before we get started down that path, it's also important to take a step back and realize that just because you're not having a panic attack every day doesn't necessarily mean that you are at your 100% emotional fitness.
And maybe to add that, yes, we are using the word mental health here today, but we really talk about health in general. And I approach it really from a founder perspective. I think it's relevant to you guys. Some of you might think, yeah, okay, it's that talk again, and maybe it's not relevant. Like Lal says, I'm not having hardship. I feel like I'm doing great. I don't need to be. I've heard about it. I've talked, but I've joined some sessions. But what I know from close to 10 years of foundership myself, as well as advising and investing and working with some other founders, that people don't prioritize this. And I'm talking about not just mental health here. I'm talking about performance health. I'm talking about you staying on top of your game. We want to talk about how you need to prioritize and think of it as, not just staying, not sick, but being at the higher optimization of yourself. So the 3 things that we want to talk about are not going to be just mental. They're going to be also physical and from a more holistic perspective, because we are a complex system as human beings. Whatever we think, how we feel, how we make decisions, how we act with others, how we bring results, how productive we are, all dependent on a very complex system that makes who we are. And that's partially physical health, mental health, relationship health, spiritual health, right? Everything plays part into it. So don't think of it as we're just going to be focusing on mental here.
Yeah. And it's also about taking away that taboo where support, therapy, anything that you're doing for your well-being is not a reactive step that you're taking. It's a proactive step that you're taking. It's really about looking at it more as going to the gym. So it's something you're doing on the regular, as opposed to going to the doctor when you're feeling sick, right? Oops. So we just wanted to put into perspective a little bit on, the journey that founders have. Sometimes you don't even realize it, and you don't want to realize it, but we kind of want to take a step back and normalize it, and to say that it's totally fine. Like, just even throughout our couple of years of working together, we've been through so many different things, whether it's anxiety, burnout, a version of depression. There have been a lot of cycles, and some of the things that we're going to focus on today have really helped us get out of that. So founders are going through a very lonely path. It's an incredible decision that you have made to even start what you have started. And what you have started is not free of all of these things. You are more likely to get a lot of these things, whether it's depression or ADHD or abusing your substance to cope. We may not have gone yeah, go ahead, Oko.
I will say that when most of us look at these numbers for the first time, we think that's not me, or these people next to me are not it. These numbers don't belong to us. These numbers belong to some other people out in the cloud that are under this term called founders. These must be the people who are having hard times somewhere else. It's not us, it's them. But one thing I can tell you guys for sure, and it is that on this call, we have 20 people right now. I can tell you 15 of these people are going through something, 2 or 3 of these things. I can guarantee you that. I can even go as far as to say that 1/3 of this group are probably having some sort of deep anxiety, where it might be going into more of a suicidal thoughts too. We've heard that so many times. You know, one of the things that we got to do in the last few years, we got to organize great group sessions like these with many more people than this. We had collected amazing community leaders from around Asia Pacific, around the world, and we've collected them in different places. And one of the sessions that we end up hosting is mental health session. And when we ask two questions, the first question is always, how can anybody help you? That question tends to open people up a little bit. And then the second question we end up asking is, as people start opening up, we ask them, who here felt or thought about ending their lives in the last 6 months or 1 year? And to our surprise, every time, at least a third of the room will raise their hand. And after seeing that in person year over year over year, whether you want to admit it today or not, I know for a fact that a third of the people on this call are going through it. So these numbers are real numbers, number one. Number two, these numbers are numbers of your peers. These numbers are not just your own numbers. These are our real numbers.
And we're not at all saying any of these things to be light or aloof about it. We are talking about it so that we're normalizing talking about it a little more. And you may not feel comfortable talking to your co-founder, you may not feel comfortable talking to us about it, but we hope that by normalizing it, talking about it more, you feel comfortable talking to somebody about it.
But even before you talk to somebody about it, the first right step is always knowing that you're not alone. Knowing that you're not alone going through these or feeling these numbers or part of these numbers. Mm-hmm. There's a person next to you on this call that's feeling the exact same things. And that seems to be the first step. It is inhuman. It's in us as a human beings to know that we're part of us, not them. And that's how we start that journey of healing, accepting, and being brave enough.
Absolutely. And, you know, a lot of people wait until they're having debilitating anxiety before they start to think seriously about taking action. And I hope that by the end of today, everybody on this call realizes that, you know, maintaining your emotional fitness is an ongoing proactive practice that's going to help you in terms of your entire founder journey. It's not just about your mental health, but it's also about you as a person. It's about the relationships you're having. It's going to be about increasing the leadership skills that you have. It's about the awareness that you're going to have outside of that. And it's going to help you figure out and also move forward in any of the mental struggles that you are having. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So this is the everything else that everybody covers all of the time, right? It's all of the, make sure you meditate, make sure you take a vacation. These are all of the different types of, you know, mental health, well-being topics that generally get covered. You know, increasing your empathy, making sure you're self-aware, be playful, have curiosity, be mindful, be resilient. And yes to all of these things. Definitely important subjects to cover. But today Oko and I want to really focus on three big things that after today's call, you're going to be able to take with you, work on, and hopefully let it have positive effects on your founder journey. So we're going to talk. No, go ahead.
Before we go into this, I want to give a little more context here. You know, the previous slide where you saw those 12 listed items or more, one thing that we feel like we can talk about this today here is, number one, we have been out there, we've been talking about it, we've been hearing these stories, and we've been trying to create a space for people to be comfortable with this and try to share some of the ways and mechanisms people can deal with it. I've personally found that one of the biggest contribution I can make to any founders, whether I invest in them or coach them and stuff, is to be there, to be healthy. That's it. That's fundamentally it. And something that I, personally have done in the last 3-4 years is I'm a self-proclaimed biohacker or self-hacker of myself. I probably do 200 things like this every day on daily basis, from early morning to late evening, right? Examples could be, I am about to finish my 16/8 fasting within next 1 hour. So I'm at 1450 right now, hours. I have, when I wake up, I know what I need to do, put in my body. I have my first caffeine only after 45 minutes to 1 hour after I wake up, because I want the natural cortisol hormones to wake me up before I start putting external trigger to wake me up. And that way I keep my natural immunity to caffeine intake, for instance. Then another thing I will do is, in the first hour, I will not speak. I will stay away from social media. I will only listen to my own heart, own soul in the first. That way I try to stay positive as a kickoff to my whole day. I wake up with only certain alarms that's based on my sleep cycle, plus a tapping on my wrist rather than a loud noise, because that changes completely how your hormones and how your states are from the beginning of the morning. Then from that, I will try to read some kind of new words or positive messages as the first input to my system in the morning, to my mental system. So oftentimes I'll read my spiritual books, etc., and that gets me going really, really well. So on, and I go on. All these things throughout the day, and I try to do different ways to optimize my holistic system, the complex system that I have, that is my body. And I've been sharing these tools, and I am very, I like to tell people, and people ask me of different techniques and do this. But oftentimes the question becomes, hey, okay, I don't have time, I don't have energy to do all those 100 things you do. What are the one thing that I can do right now that might have a significant impact on my mental health, on my physical health, from a perspective of how I can be a little more productive, a little more energetic, and a little better at making decisions? Because ultimately, that's what you guys need right now. That's what we need as founders. So we thought hard. We went through our lists, and we came up with these 3 lists for you guys. 3 things that we think, if you were to do one thing, first thing, and the second thing, and third thing, these are the 3 things that we think are
all 3 things.
Hyper.
You don't need to pull an Oko overnight, because that's really tough. But these 3 things, even if you start doing them in small steps, are going to have a significant impact on just your capability to be a better founder the next day and the next day and the next day after that.
So for people who like metrics and measurements, what I will say is that, by doing all these things, one of the metrics that I can tell you that everybody here will agree and will want is, in 2020, okay, yes, it was a different year, but in 2020, I haven't gotten a single sickness. And my goal was to not take external medicine that needed to fix any problem that it caused by my weak immune system. So for people who like metrics, all these things, by doing this, what are you trying to, that's one state. That's one metrics that I can kind of share with you guys that I think everybody would agree on. All right. So with that said, numero uno is very simple. And everybody's gonna, really? This is it? This is the damn thing? Sleep.
I'm sure that lots of people here have heard the advice to sleep. I'm sure lots of people here have even read the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, or at least seen the TED Talk, or heard Ariana Huffington talk about why she left the Huffington Post to focus on a company that's completely focused on sleep. And that is really because sleep is the single most effective thing that we can do to reset our brain. It is the most important biological thing that we have to do. It's necessary, it's mandatory. If we don't do it, we will die. But everybody, takes sleep for granted a little bit more than we should be. There's a big cloud, there's a fog over, the importance of sleep, because hustle culture has also become so prominent especially in our industry. People wear the lack of sleep or the intensity in which they have, long days of work or long weeks of work as something to be proud of, when all it's doing is reducing the amount of awareness, effectiveness, and productivity that you have as a founder.
It is like the best analogy is sleep is one of those genius mechanisms that our body was given. It's like a Ferrari that we have, but most people are not taking it for a spin. Most people just keep it in the garage or break it and just don't take advantage of this amazing genius tool that's given to us. Some of the things that Matthew Walker talks in the book that happens physiologically in your body is, in terms of brain, that's what we care about. Most people, when it comes to the physical body, most of us just care, like, I just want to stay ill-free, right? I don't want to, as long as I'm not sick, I'm okay. That's what most people strive for. But then many people, on the mental side, many people strive for ability to memorize things better, ability to come up with the best decisions for my startups, ability to sustain my emotional swing in a way and moderate it in a way that I'm helpful and supportive to others. Well, that's exactly what sleep does. There's a beta amyloid, is this toxic molecules that collects in your body. And when we sleep and we go through the whole 4 cycles of the sleep throughout the night with the 7 to 9 hours of a prolonged sleep, one of the things that happens is that there's this cleaning crew that comes in during the night in those sleep cycles and literally cleans your brain of these toxic proteins so that your brain can function at a much better level. It transfers many of the short-term memories into a long-term memory. It creates new pathways and new neuron firings so that the next day you are showing up in your startup and you're about to pitch in front of an investor, and you can memorize the things you've been practicing like this. Sleep is a genius tool that's supposed to help you with those. It's not a thing that you do just to survive. It's a tool that you can use to perform at your highest state. Ariana Huffington in her book talks about how this generation today, people sleep way less than at any other generation in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And recovery sleeping doesn't work. Sleep is not a bank. You can't choose to sleep and recover over the weekend if you don't sleep very much across the week. More than 3 nights of a full 8 hours is still not enough to recover from 4 days of 6 hours of sleep. And the thing with sleep is, like Oko said, it affects every single part of your waking self. It affects your mind, it affects your gut, it affects your health, it affects how productive you are. It even affects the state in which you're driving, the state in which you are performing, whether it's sexually, whether it's, speaking to people. It affects everything. And if you are trying to be the best version of yourself, this is the easiest thing that you can do, even though as a founder, it is the most difficult thing to stop and close your eyes and come back to something in the morning. But you must try to remember that by doing that, by sleeping and coming back to it, you're actually bringing more solutions to the table than you would be if you were trying to tackle a problem when you are down on sleep, when your mind isn't rested, when you aren't recharged, because you're more irritable, you are less likely to see solutions that are right in front of you. You're just not in a state to perform better. So we're going to do a quick test.
I just want to pause here and say that the chat is just super.
I know, I can't keep up with everything that's being
and what
said
you guys
there.
are chatting is amazing. And, you know, that's the whole point. Like whatever we end up talking here, so like I said earlier, stage number one turns out to be always knowing that you're not alone with these problems, that you're not going through these things. And stage number two, step number two, that seems to be a really good thing to have in dealing with any of these problems, is having a community, having people you can share and work and you know, be safe with. And I think already you can see that this group is creating that environment and community and tribe for each other. This is what the Impact Collective is doing. And, you know, this chat is a great example. So just keep going, guys. We're going to try to address those. But
before we actually move on, I do want to address what Chris brought up. And to summarize for everybody, it's basically, is knowing all of this actually possible in taking action when you're deep in that, you know, that founderhood, that survival mode, that like launching your company stage? Is knowing about it enough? It is not. A lot of people know the things that they have to do in order to be healthy, in order to do the things that they have to do. My mom is actually a great example of this, in that she knows and she advises as a founder herself things that people should be doing, but she rarely takes her own advice. She has a terrible sleep cycle, and that's because she's just going through a super stressful stage at this point. And as much as I push her and advise her to like go to sleep on time, or like not go to bed at 3 and then wake up at 7 and do that crazy mode, there are days when she does that. And I myself used to do that all the time. And it's only when you stop and realize where you're at and how it's affecting you, and you decide to take that step in changing that behavior, will it actually make a difference at all. So we're going to do a little test. This will be fun. So it's going to take like a minute, and then everybody should share their score if they're happy to in the chat below. And I'll share my answer. So for every sentence that is applicable to you where it's yes, you get 5 points, and every sentence that it's a no, you get 0 points. So tabulate all of that up and place your score in the chat, and we will help you get a better understanding of what your sleep hygiene is like and where you have room for improvement. Come on, guys, it's super easy primary school math. Everybody can do it. Mine is a 30.
Sorry, could you repeat the scoring system again?
Sure. So for every sentence that is applicable to you, where it's like you read it and you're like, yes, I do this, you get 5 points.
Okay.
For every sentence that it's a no, you get 0 points.
Okay, got it.
And
Got it.
just add it up. I see 25. Oko, is yours like 40?
What if I
like it's something in between? Like, for
what
example,
if
No, there's no maybe. It's either you do it or you don't do it. There's no like 2.5.
I see.
We will see who scores pretty good or not. Oko, what's yours?
I'm calculating.
and what if, you know, our medium of calming down is a device, is the phone?
Nope. There's no in between, guys. It's a hard yes or no. Also, don't worry. This is truly just to give everybody kind of a bearing. You're not going to get like scored on this after. There's no consequence to you sharing your score. Ooh, NK coming in with a solid 40. Look at her. All right. Okay, what did you get?
I think I'm 35.
Yeah, I'm at about 30. So this is what that means. So if you're anywhere between 30, 25 and above, you're doing okay. You're like, you've got a good rhythm. There's definitely more that you can do. And I bet a lot of people, the thing that reduced their scores a lot is that they don't put their phone away before they go to bed. That's usually the one that everybody kind of breaks down on, or that they don't go to bed before midnight, which is also quite likely with this group of people.
And
right?
7 to 8 hours, I would say that most people here don't hit 7 to 8 hours on a regular basis. I guarantee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say, even for us, between Oko and I, it took us a while to make sure that we actually got 7 to 8 hours of sleep a day. We were very proud for the first couple of years if we even got 6 hours, and we'd be like, oh my God, I got 6 hours of sleep yesterday. How great am I? And everything below, it's not an issue if you have it. It's just a matter of you taking time to work on one thing at a time. You don't have to change everything all at once. If the one thing is you're sleeping too late, every day, sleep 20 minutes earlier, 15 minutes earlier, half an hour earlier, and it's going to make a difference. If it's the fact that you feel really anxious before you go to bed, try meditating, or go out of the room, get your worry out of the way, make sure whatever that's on your mind is written down and you can get to it in the morning, and then come back to bed. Make sure that your bed always feels like a place that you can actually sleep in, close your eyes and rest. The obvious, please don't drink coffee before you go to bed. As much as everybody says they're immune to coffee, your body is not as immune to coffee as you think.
So you probably heard this. Your last coffee for the day really should be before 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Because anything you drink after 2 p.m. stays in your system. The caffeine will block some of those sleep hormones naturally, and it's going to stay in your system and disrupt your sleep. So that's same goes for alcohol, unfortunately, and coffee. So both of them. So a few hacks. So obviously all these things just Lalitha mentioned, those are all ways to improve your sleep. But here are some that I think all of us can do. Number one, turns out, number one thing you can do with your bedroom and just kind of improving your sleep is dropping your room temperature.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be about 1 degree below your body temperature. This is, yes, if you're taking melatonin externally, I guess that could be strong. But outside of that, one of the most natural thing you can do in terms of letting your body go and do this more organically in terms of hormones and stuff is to drop the temperature of the environment. That is also why if you take a hot shower or hot bath before you go to bed, it helps, because what it happens is that it activates your cooling system, so it's more sensitive to the temperature around you. So that's number one, your room temperature. Number two, light and noise. Straightforward. Somebody asked here about blue light. Yes, absolutely. Blue light should be out of your system at least 2 hours before you go to bed. And that's ways to do it. Look at your bulbs. Most of these bulbs have blue lights in them. So what happens is 2 hours before, you start turning off these blue light sources and you start using yellow lights or red lights, for instance, you can start using. Now, even crazy hack would be to wear a blue light glasses that can also do it. If you live in a city or a street where there's these neon lights from outside, you really want to use some hacks like that, because they're not controlling, they're controlling your hormones, right, from external. So you want to sort of, so noise and light, those are the two big things. If you want to go extreme as we are, there are some other hacks. For instance, I have 2 different special earplugs This one is from daytime. It takes away certain frequencies, so my brain is a little more calm. And then I exchange that with the sleep earplugs when it's time to go to sleep. I use these guys. They're from a company called Audio Flare, and they have a metal core inside and the silicone foam on the outside, so they fit really nicely. They do a great job. They're affordable, so you can use this. They're reusable. So a plug. Number 2, if you want to go extreme, I have an electromagnetic tool that I massage my brain waves. It turns out instead of putting external chemistry, by giving it special frequency, it helps more. Yes.
I'm going to cut you off because if we go down all the lists of all the things that you use, we will reach the end of it and we will not have gone into the next 2 things that we have to talk about. But yes, the point.
Can we have a list though?
You can absolutely have a list. We'll make sure to share this deck out to Songy
take
and
my
Aim,
money.
and they
Take
can
my money.
share it with all of you. And we'll make sure to add some like actual tips of what we just talked about into the deck, so you have a reference point. So moving on, because I know that we're short on time. We've got like 11 minutes left of you guys. We're going to quickly talk about toxins, and then we're going to talk about humans. So once upon a time, not so long ago, Oko and I used to drink our weight in alcohol. And we would do the thing of doing the total hustle, where we would have programs and have events, and we would be both the facilitator of the program and then the chief experience officer and social committee of those events. So we would be the first people that show up at programs, and then we would be the last people to leave the bar, and we would go to sleep. We would have like 4 hours, and then we'd wake up and we'd do it, and it would be, 4 or 5 day long programs every other week for like 3-4 years. And it was terrible. It was fucking horrible. It was bad for our skin. It was bad for our health. It was bad for everything.
It was fun. I mean, now it's easier for us to say it was bad, but at that time, that's the life. And if you're fundraising, if you're trying to hype up your team, if you're trying to do team building, if you're trying to spend some, radical candor session with your team members and co-founders and your new team people, we know that's kind of the way to go. And it's very hard to imagine that, cutting that out is gonna be helpful or even create a path for us to function as a founder. I mean, that's exactly what we use. But
I will also say that, one of the reasons that we did that extreme, and it's not so much about the doing both ends of the spectrum and being there. It was the issue that we had was that we would do that, but we would also drink too much when we were doing these things, as opposed to these days where we still do those things when we have to, but we don't drink as much. So the nights don't seem as bad. And when we go to sleep and wake up, it's not the worst hangover or anything like that. And in those moments, I know for me, when I started out and I was doing it, part of that drinking was also like a little bit of insecurity, making sure that you feel like you belong, you feel like you can be there, you feel like you can keep up. And it was only after I was able to take a step back and realize that my value for being at that table and being with these people was beyond my capability of, drinking my weight in alcohol, that you're able to say no, you're able to hold your drink, you're able to do whatever you want. And I know for some people who don't drink or feel weird for being in that scene, it's a really shitty scene to be a part of. Like, drinking is such a big part of the culture in our industry. And the moment that you are able to find a friend or two that you're just able to be in that scene with, but be at the moderation level you want, it makes the stand that you're taking a lot easier to take.
So number one, if you take care of your sleep, if you just make a huge improvement in your sleep, you're gonna become probably at least 30% more productive and more healthier. Minimum, I would say, if you do a drastic change in your sleep. The second thing is, if you take out toxins such as alcohol and cigarettes, if you do smoke, another big leap will happen, another 30% or so. I can say that your improvements, your productivity, how your body reacts, your health, your emotional state, everything starts happening. You know, drinking, we don't want to talk too much about it. I know it's kind of a good topic, but I can guarantee you that you don't need to be a heavy drinker to be feeling these effects. These effects, when we feel it in our bodies, are not very, you know, out screaming in your face. They're very subtle how it affects our everything from your sleep to your immune system, to your mental health, to your hormones. And it's just incredible the effect you feel once you cut it out. So the way to do it, Lal just talks about it, which is to find a safe environment and be okay with even just talking that I don't want to drink, right? What I've done in 2019 is 9 months, 0 alcohol, and I've survived, and I was able to do fundraising during that time, guys, and I was able to run startups. So I can tell you that you're going to be fine if you cut it out completely. I went 0. And then only after that, I'm now able to go back and start having drink or do here and there. Yeah.
We're not saying don't drink. Just make sure it's not taking over your life. There's a great tip in the chat. Ginger ale in a champagne glass all night. The other thing I do is soda water with just lemon in it. It looks like a gin and tonic. So there are all kinds of hacks. Nobody's telling you not to drink, but just make sure you're drinking in a way that it's not affecting everything else that you're doing, and it's not reducing the quality of sleep you're having and the quality of wake-up time you have. All right, last thing.
We've abused our
we
body
have,
too much. Yeah, go ahead.
No, just we have 5 more minutes,
Yeah.
and I want to make sure we get through the last thing that we have. So whatever you guys are doing in this chat is incredible. And the last thing we wanted to touch on is the circle of people that you have around you. A couple of episodes ago, we had the honor of having the wonderful Stephanie Aerosmith be part of our podcast, and we talked for like an hour and a half about peer advisory boards and the importance of the kind of people you surround yourself with. So the other point that we wanted to get across is, you know, the founder journey is a lonely one. If you have a co-founder, that's incredible, but sometimes you don't even feel comfortable talking to them about certain things. And as much as an Olympic athlete would be, you know, wouldn't be expected to reach their full potential without a coach, founders shouldn't be expected to carry the burden of being founders all by themselves. And so today we wanted to use that episode specifically about peer advisory boards to share with you the ways in which that you should look at building your own peer advisory board. So a group of people that you're able to come together with at a consistent time and be as vulnerable and as open and as honest as you can about anything that you need to be open and honest about, so that you are not carrying all of that burden by yourself. There is the bucket of therapy, there is the bucket of friends, there is the bucket of family, there's your co-founders, there's all of these, your mentors, all of these things are important to have. This is a completely separate thing, right? It's meant to come together. It's meant to be your circle outside of all of your circles. So that's what the why is about. So this is how you do it. These are the 4 things that you can do today to build your little peer advisory board. We advise anywhere between, what did we say, like 3 to 5 people? Yeah, 3 to 5 people is a great start. You shouldn't have too many, because at the same time, you want to make sure that everybody has a chance to say everything that they need to say in the time that you've allocated. So when you're picking your peer advisory board, tell them, bring them together with that intention. Make sure everybody knows why it's there, why they've been asked, why you've, chosen to bring them into this group, because then you don't just talk about like random things. You really have expectations and boundaries set, and you have specific meetups, and you know the importance of them. And the biggest thing that you can do to make sure it's effective is consistency. Show up and continue to show up and continue to show up some more. And lastly, who do you do it with? We can't answer that for you. These are questions that you have to figure out. Sometimes it's the most unlikely of people that come into these circles. It's people that you don't feel, that it's not even you don't feel judgment from. It's that in their actions, they've built no judgments when you share things with them. Who do you feel vulnerable with? Who do you feel you can be vulnerable with? Who do you think you can learn from? This program is a great way for you to find those people as well. People who are going through that same path, that same journey, who can really empathize, understand, and share, effective solutions for anything that you're going through, because they themselves might have gone through it. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So peer advisory group is an idea. The point here is, and we're going to be recommending 3 books for you guys. And one of the books we're recommending to you guys is a book called Connected by Christakis and Fowler. They're Nobel Prize winners, I believe. And this book really talks about how we affect each other. One of the interesting statistics in the book that's talked is that your friend's friend has effect on you, whether you're directly interacting with them or not. The effect goes as far as when they lose weight, you're likely to lose weight, even if you know them or don't know them. We are social animals. The way we affect each other, the way we interact with each other, the way we influence each other is pretty enormous in a variety of ways. So it's extremely crucial as founders going through this tough journey to find ways to create a support system for yourselves. Peer advisory group is just one of them. I personally see regularly now a therapist. I make sure I invest my time. We have a group called Collectives, where Songi, Aim, Lalitha, myself, and then we have how many other? Inke, few other people. So there are 8 or 9 of us. And we try to spend time every Friday, jump on a call and check on each other. That's all we do. Then
none of us are really working together, save for Oko and I. And it's all just people from different points of our journey together that have come together. And it's not necessarily always 8 or 9 of us that show up. It's really smaller circles of this larger group that come in when they can, at the capacity that they can.
Now, if you don't want to do a collective, which is like the peer advisory group in this case, reach out to your old good friends. Don't have to only limit to professional or foundership friendships. You need your healthy circle. You need a place to share your thoughts and your feelings. And that's what we're saying here. Control your circle. Whether you want it or not, they're controlling you. So make sure you have a proactive approach to that. And if you do that, another 30 to 50% of increase in your productivity, guaranteed.
So this is the last message that we really wanted to leave you with. Self-care is one of the most important things to go when times get tough. But if you want to lead, you have to make sure that you put on your own oxygen mask first. I think that's our time. If you want to stay in touch with us, Oko and I are on the Instagram, the Twitters, all of that good stuff. And you can find us on any platform, not any platform, on Instagram or Twitter with those handles, and our website where you can get in touch with us. So with that, we're going to hand it back to Songi. Sorry we ran over time, There's so much more that we would have loved to say, but yeah, we hope this helps. We hope that you have an incredible program moving forward.